All right, if you're a federal employee, you know that your performance has always been a big deal, right? It affects your promotions, your step increases, pretty much your whole reputation. But when it came to a reduction in force, a RIF, it was kind of the last thing on the list. Well, that's all about to get flipped on its head. There's a new proposed rule that's going to put performance front and center, and today we're going to break down exactly what this means for your career.
So I gotta ask you straight up, is your career RIF-proof? Because the entire playbook for job security, the very rules that decide who stays and who goes, is being completely rewritten. I mean, we're talking about a total reshuffle. Everything you thought kept you safe, it's changing. Okay, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll cover how the rules are changing. Then we'll dive into the big one, performance over seniority. After that, we're going to expose a huge problem called the documentation gap. And then we get practical with a clear plan for protecting your record. We'll wrap it all up by talking about how this is all about telling the story of your real value. All right, let's dive right in. So the Office of Personnel Management, OPM, they've put a proposal on the table. And folks, it is a big one. Look, your performance reviews have always been part of the deal, but making them a primary deciding factor in a RIF, that's a total game changer.
Think about it. You know how it works. Your performance record, that's what gets you promotions, awards, those sweet step increases. But if the worst happened, if a RIF was on the table, your performance was basically an afterthought, a footnote really. Well, that footnote is about to become the main headline.
Okay, so that brings us to the absolute core of this issue, performance over seniority. This is where we get into the nitty-gritty of how this all works. And I want to be super clear here. This isn't some minor tweak. This is a fundamental reshuffling of the deck.
Okay, just look at this comparison. On the left, you've got the old way. It went tenure, then veterans preference, then how long you've been on the job, your length of service, and way down at the bottom, number 4, was your performance rating. Now, look at the proposed new order. Whoa, performance ratings leapfrog all the way from last place to second place, right behind tenure. And your seniority? It gets booted all the way to the bottom to be used only as a tiebreaker. This is a seismic shift in what matters. So, you might be wondering, what exactly are performance ratings in this new system? And this is really important. It's not just about your last review. No, they're going to be looking at your 3 most recent appraisals. They'll take those 3, turn them into a score, and then use that to literally rank you against your peers. So yeah, your last 3 years of work are about to be put under a microscope.
And here's how that scoring actually breaks down. It's a pretty straightforward point system. You get 7 points for an outstanding rating, 5 for exceeds fully successful, and 3 for fully successful. Anything below that? A big fat 0. So they add up your points from the last 3 years, and that total score is what decides where you stand. The higher the score, the safer you are. Simple as that. Okay, so this is where things get really interesting. We need to talk about something called the documentation gap. Because a lot of you are probably thinking, hey, no problem. I always get high ratings. I'm totally safe, right? Well, maybe not. A high rating by itself might not be the silver bullet you think it is. Let me explain. I want you to ask yourself this, and be honest. Does your performance record, your actual appraisals, reflect what you really did, your impact? Or does it just have some generic language describing your job duties? The description of what you do, not the results of what you've done. And trust me, there is a world of difference between those two things. And here's a number that makes this problem even bigger. 64%. What's that? Well, according to OPM's own data, 64% of federal employees got one of the top 2 ratings. That's nearly 2/3 of the entire workforce. There's a name for this. It's called rating compression. So what does that mean? It means if pretty much everyone has a great rating, then the rating itself doesn't really help tell people apart. It's like everyone has an A on their report card. The letter grade doesn't make you stand out. So what does? It's the details. It's the actual words, the specific accomplishments, the narrative in your write-up that proves why you earned that top rating. That's the new battleground. And this right here is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Look at the left. Managed project coordination activities. Okay, what does that even mean? It's vague. It's a bland description of a duty. Now look at the right. Led cross-agency coordination for a 14-month initiative that reduced processing delays by 31%. Bam! That's an accomplishment. It's active, it's specific, it has numbers, it shows real impact. These two could describe the exact same job, but only one of them actually proves your value.
A lot of folks in government feel weird about this. They think it's bragging to talk about their achievements like that. But we have got to get past that. This isn't about bragging, it's about career strategy. It's always been a smart thing to do. But now, with this new RIF framework, it's not just strategy anymore, it's self-protection. It's survival. Okay, so enough about the problem. What can you actually do about it? Let's talk about protecting your record. The good news is you don't have to just sit back and wait. I've got a simple 3-step plan you can start using today, right now. Step 1 is to audit. Seriously, go pull up your last 3 performance appraisals. But here's the trick. Read them like you're a total stranger who knows nothing about you or your job. Step 2, analyze. As you're reading, ask yourself, is this language all about duties or is it about real, quantifiable outcomes? Can you see the numbers, the results? And finally, step 3 is to act. The next time your review cycle comes around, come prepared. Have your own list of accomplishments written out, just like that strong example we saw. Look, at the end of the day, this is all about taking control of your own narrative. You just can't expect your supervisor, who's probably swamped with a dozen other things, to remember every single awesome thing you did over the last 12 months. It's on you. You have to know what you accomplished, and just as important, you have to know how to talk about it. And that brings us to our final section, your story, your value. Because that's really what this boils down to, right? Making sure that the official story they have on paper about you actually matches the incredible value you bring to the table every single day. So let's just do a super quick recap. First, what's changed? The big one, performance is jumping the line, way ahead of seniority and RIFs. Second, why does this matter so much? Because with so many people getting high ratings, vague write-ups just aren't going to cut it anymore. They're a liability. And finally, what can you do about it? You have to get proactive. Start documenting your own specific, quantified accomplishments now. So I'm going to leave you with this one last question to chew on. Your official record has always told some kind of story about your career. Go look at it. Does that story really truly capture your full value? Because in this new world, that story isn't just a story anymore. It might just be the one thing that keeps you in the game.